Hi there. This is the second video in a three-part video where we're talking about how to value ourselves as human beings to avoid being treated as objects, to avoid being objectified. And we talked about that in the first part of this three-part videos. And in the first part, we talked about 1 Thessalonians 5:23 that says, "May God himself, meaning the Creator, the God of peace, sanctify you through and through and make you whole, body, soul, and spirit, and keep you blameless at the coming of our Lord Jesus Christ." So we were able to see that as human beings, you're not just a body. Simply because you see the body as being like the physical representation of you, it doesn't mean that the intangible parts of you are not just as real. You have a body, you have a soul, and you have a spirit that make up you as a human being. So let's talk about the body. Now, the body, of course, we know there's the organs, whether it's the brain, the blood, the skin, the lungs, the kidney, the heart, all of it function together to make up the body. And then we have the senses, the sense of touch, the sense of sight, the sense of hearing, the sense of smell, the sense of taste that help us to respond to our environments. So if someone tapped me on my shoulder, I'll look back and be able to respond and see what they are meaning or what they want. And if someone reached out their arms like this, that person is coming in for a hug, and if you know them, your friend or someone you're like, oh, a hug. But if it's someone you don't know, you're like, what's your problem? That's creepy. Though I saw another person saying that she gives out free hugs. So anyway, you are able to respond to your environment. These senses help us to respond to our environments. You hear something smell good, or something smell awful, or something taste good, or something taste awful, or taste different. You'll be able to see things. So it helps us to respond to our environments, the senses, right? And I'm mentioning the senses so that we get into something that is in the soul called emotions. And I touched a bit on that in the first part of the three-part video, the first video. You can go listen to that video if you haven't. But then we have the emotions. And emotions, I believe, are the internal senses of us as human beings. The same way we have the physical senses that I've mentioned, sense of touch, sense of all of those senses that help us respond to our environments. The internal senses, the emotions, are our internal senses that help us respond to the experiences we're having in life. So you're able to react appropriately. Now, I feel like they mirror. This one is on the body side, this one is on the soul side. You're able to respond to the environment when it comes to the five senses, and then you're able to respond to experiences when it comes to the emotions. Now, emotions, number one, were not created to be suppressed. They were not created to be suppressed. Emotions were not created to be suppressed. They were created to be expressed, but to be expressed appropriately. They were not created to be suppressed. Emotions were created to be expressed appropriately, right? But you do not allow yourself to be controlled by your emotions. You have self-control where you can control your emotions, so that you're not talking about, me, I just have anger issues. Me, I just talk the way I want. Okay, those emotions are there for you to express them, but you're supposed to express them appropriately. In fact, there's a verse that says, in your anger, you do well to be angry, but do not sin. Even if you're angry, do not insult people just because you're angry, or just because you want, you're evading being responsible and taking action for the things, for your faults, right? So emotions were created to be expressed, and expressed appropriately. That's one part of the soul. The other part of the soul is the mind. Now, the mind, when I think about the mind, I think about Ephesians 3:20, that talks about God is able to do exceedingly abundantly more than you could ever think, ask, or imagine. And that's like the realm of the mind. You're thinking, you're imagining, you have dreams, all of that. So that's where the mind is, as when it comes to this. And then we have the other part of the soul that is called the will. The will, I believe, has to do with determination. You're able to be able to set out things and actually accomplish things. Determination, you're able to be assertive, you're able to articulate yourself, you're able to assert yourself. So the soul, imagine all of that is just the soul. All of that is just the soul. So emotions were meant to be expressed appropriately, and do not allow yourself to be controlled by your emotions. Emotions just help us to know what's going on, or how what is going on around us is affecting us, so that you're able to take the right actions or take the right steps, but not to stay in that emotion, right? So even in Ecclesiastes 3, it says, when it's time to laugh, laugh. When it's time to cry, cry, because it's appropriate. Cry when it's time to cry. If you've lost a loved one, allow yourself to feel, because when you don't feel, you suppress it. And the more you keep suppressing it, you have these outbursts that you're like, okay, or people are like, okay, what's wrong with you? But it's because you're not dealing. The emotions are just sensors. It just shows you this thing you need to deal with, so that you're able now to take the right actions. So even Jesus, he is God, and he was able to cry when his friend Lazarus had died. Before he resurrected him, he wept. Weeping is it's that deep. He wept because it was appropriate to weep. Imagine if he was told that Lazarus has died and he started dancing or laughing. You'd be like, okay, this is weird. That's not appropriate. That's not the appropriate emotion there. You're told that God laughs. You're told that God dances over us. So when it's time to do something, when it's time to appropriate a certain emotion, appropriate it. Don't suppress it, because emotions are not created to be suppressed. They're just sensors that help us to know the right actions to take. Of course, you have the mind, you have dreams and all of that. We have the will. So that's to do with the body and the soul. So you're so much more as a human being. Don't allow anyone to devalue you, or to reduce you to your experiences, or to reduce you to what happened in your life. Don't allow anyone to reduce you to your experiences. Allow yourself as a human being to experience the real you, to experience the full you. So this is the second part, as I talked about it earlier, and we will go into the next part in the next video, where we'll talk about the spirit. So you're not just a body, you're so much more, and do not let people reduce you to the experiences you've had in life. You're so much more than that.